I'd like to share with you some recent awakenings, some recent letting goes of um, a real vortex in my psychology, like a real downward vortex that it just, this MO just kept, I kept meeting it again and again through life, through other lifetimes as well. Um, and it was just this perpetual stumbling block. And I'm not professing to be like completely all resolved with it, but I just thought, just talk about it and let's see where it goes. So, you may have been listening to other videos of mine, you may have read things I've written about. I've got a pussycat wanting to come on my lap. Come here. Come here. Um, And okay, so the best way is just to be really sort of direct and everything. I had an issue, it was all triggered around the beginning of the year when I experienced the trauma with the tree falling on my bus. And, that really massively unsettled me, like it just stirred up some very painful trauma. It stirred up like survival mechanisms. It had me in fight flight mode for a long time, and I found it very difficult to manage, because there was a time there where people's attempts to sort of help me see something I wasn't seeing, it wasn't actually very useful because I was in trauma. Like, there's sometimes supporting someone with their psychology can help, and other times it's kind of like it's just not helpful, like for the actual situation. Sometimes someone just needs like a bit of kindness and warmth and everything, and I did receive that as well. But there was something in me, and see, this is where I can't blame it on anyone else. I can't blame it, it's a pattern in me where I didn't want people to be telling me, what I didn't want to see in myself. Like, I didn't want people challenging my psychology. And it's a real fine balance, this whole thing of like, when having other people challenging psychology, you've got to work out, like, am I going to make karma for doing this? Am I doing it because of my ego, or is it coming from this pure flow of like wanting to help that other person? And with the self, like when you're on the receiving end of challenges, it's kind of like, again, does, regardless of whether it seems to be coming from a separate self and that other person, or from their unresolved psychology, but still, ask yourself, like, well, maybe, there's something I need to look at here. Maybe they have a point. And it's complex, but you see, what was happening with me was I'd built up this very strong identity of being a spiritual person, and this hasn't happened in just this lifetime. Like, I came to earth this lifetime with a strong spiritual, I'm going to put it in bunny ears, a strong spiritual identity. And I could say that, this spiritual identity was kind of like a bit special, like, saw myself as a bit special, and, because, unique from the crowd, and see, like, the majority of people on earth aren't sort of following this path, so I must be special. And so it was a really complex sort of a personality built up around that, so complex that, I couldn't see it from the outside. And some other people were seeing it. They were seeing this playing out of me. So, So, I got caught up initially. So I'll go back to that tree incident. Initially, I found there was a few times when people were pointing out something in my psychology and it just wasn't helpful. But then this unresolved psychology in me stepped in and thought, ooh, I'm onto something here. No one should be challenging me. And I thought I had some sort of ultimate truth, some sort of ultimate answer. Like, it's any challenge on my psychology, it's all wrong, and so therefore that person's wrong, like, not me. I must be right. And and then I'd just go on like this huge I just continued to go on this huge tirade of just seeing the wrongness in everyone else, and like anybody who dared to challenge my psychology, like I'd block them, and just get them, try and find a way to avoid interacting with them, like whether I challenge them back or whatever it was, or say you have no right to do this. Oh, it's so, like it was complicated, but I've just recently realized that, thanks to, a few friends who didn't validate this sense of self. Interestingly, those friendships where the people didn't validate it, they went very quiet. But they gave me, like, this solid sort of, I realized, but these people are still loving me and everything. And I kind of miss those connections, and so I wanted to build a pathway back forwards. And I realized there's something in me where I realized I wasn't coming from my heart. I wasn't coming from love. I was coming from a place which was sort of like anti-love. Because I was judging people as not being loving towards me if they challenged my psychology. And when I look at it and I think, well, is that unloving? Maybe in some cases it is, maybe it isn't, but I was just casting this big net over the top, this big net of generalization, saying, like, all of that particular behavior is wrong. So it was like this net of right and wrong, and a value judgment as, like, it was also bad in its simplest term, and that's dualistic. So there's a real danger in this, because the pathway out of, that's just like the normal way it is on Earth, with this, this huge nets of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, like it's huge. This dualistic mindset is everywhere, and to break free from it, we need to sort of come into this, assessment of every single moment, every single situation, and assess it for what it is, as this individual moment in time. And most of all, to assess ourselves, because if I'm feeling a reaction to something outside of me, to another person, if I just feel something sort of rising up in me that I can tell when it's imbalanced, like, then I just got to look within. It's no point getting caught up in that other person, in what they're doing, and in whether it is right or wrong or good or bad or anything. Like, it isn't any of that, because it's just dualistic. But the point is like, always need to come back and have a look at myself. Like, well, what do I need to look at in myself here? Am I having reaction? Do they have a point? Who knows? And so I've had to sort of ditch this sense of feeling special. And I think, like I said before, it's not like something where I'm just going to go, yeah, I've done that, yay, look at me, I'm awesome, I've let go of this sense of being special. I'm quite happy to admit it's a work in progress, and I've just got to, I think I can say, is that my eyes are open, and I'm totally open to looking at this and really working hard to catch out my ego when it does that again, because I know it's a stumbling block that I have fallen into time and time again, and I just don't want to. I don't want to fall back down that hole again. It's not going to work for me anymore. So onwards and upwards. So there's just a few thoughts about, you know, the sense of being special, and also, you know, about taking each moment, each situation individually, like not casting this big net of, like, you know, all of these people are this or that, all of this particular behavior, you know, whether it's challenging someone's psychology, all of that is wrong or bad. You know, I can't afford to do that. No one really can. It doesn't solve the answers. It's all, you know, this independent individual moment in time where, you know, we're coming into oneness with the Christ mind to find out the answer regarding, you know, ourselves and the world around us, you know, in that moment. In that, you know, you can only assess each situation for what it is as an individual moment and situation and experience. Like, you know, they're not all the same. They're really not. So that's the end of my thoughts.